Okay, everyone, thank you. Yesterday we had gave a class in the morning, but we had a little issue with the recorder, so I'm going to re-record today. This is the Moshiach Decoded class. This is our third semester of Moshiach Decoded, and this was supposed to be class 6C. In which we're addressing, the title is Now What?, which we've discussed already in the last two classes. I am, however, going to switch this because I want to continue on a subject that I feel that I have not thoroughly explained in an earlier subject, an earlier one of the classes. See, initially this was supposed to be a six-part semester, 6 classes in that semester, but the teachings of Mashiach and about the Geula, they're growing on me. So it's not like I have a set information to give. I'm constantly learning, and it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer, and different ideas and different understanding and more understanding on the subject. So I keep on adding classes, especially to this very last important series called The Process. So the class that was before this last one, which was called Now What?, was called Progress Report. And I think I only gave one class on Progress Report, or maybe 2. So this is either going to be, I forgot to check before I started talking today. So either this is going to be class 5B or 5C. We'll check. Either case, I highly, highly, highly recommend that anybody listening to this class listen to the entire series of Mashiach Decoded before you listen to this class. It's information that's not going to do you good if you're not prepared for this information. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're obviously doing a disservice to me, but to yourself. I don't believe, what I'm trying to teach is useful information, things that are, and if you're giving someone dessert before they had an appetizer, it doesn't work. This is a class that comes after many, many, many ideas, and it's a build-up. So I would highly recommend. Now, if you can't listen to the entire 3, now they're all on YouTube, besides 2 or 3 that we had technical problems, and I have to redo those 2 or 3. I think it's 3 classes that I need to redo, and Bez Hashem, we'll get to it. I want to produce the entire series together. Meanwhile, they're on our Maayon Yisroel channel called Mashiach Decoded. And there is, the first series, second series, Mashiach. It began with Mashiach the person, then Mashiach the era, and then Mashiach the process. If you can't go through all of them before you listen to this class, at least go through Mashiach the process and all the classes leading up to it, because then you'll appreciate far more on what I'm saying. The class will be inspiring, meaningful, and you'll be doing a justice to yourself. You won't be wasting your time. Okay, that being said, I'd like to invite everybody to listen to this class. I think it's an important class, but again, please, if you can respect my request, that would be really good. Okay, the reason why I was inspired to give this particular class was I was mentioning to you in the last class that there were certain instructions given to us by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. After, today's a very auspicious day in Chabad, by the way. Today's the 27th day of Adar, the first Adar. And those familiar with Chabad history know that on this day in 1992, the Rebbe suffered a massive stroke. And it really threw Chabad on a spin. This stroke led later, 2 years later, on the same date, on the 27th of Adar. So this is a day very meaningful, because as we know, the Moshiach's peak, the amazing thing, actually, but that many Chassidim and 7 years later, and clarity. I think we're able to. So the way you become clear in something is not to ignore it and not to dismiss it, but to face it head on, and let's take a look what was said and see if we can analyze what was said. So that's what I was actually taking upon myself to do in the last class called Now What? Was what is the instructions the Rebbe did give us? And I began in the last class to speak about that the Rebbe wanted us to take responsibility and what that means, that it's your personal thing, that it's not Hashem's business, that Hashem should have a home in this world and Mashiach should come. It's not only Hashem's business, it's your business because you're partners in the project, because you're so unified with Hashem, and that's the spark of Mashiach that each and every one of us has in us, that Hashem's dream is our dream. To want Mashiach just because, for personal gains or, whatever anybody has, for the great wealth that's going to come then, or for the healing that's going to come then, and all these things that are personal things, is really a detraction of what it really is. The time of Mashiach is Hashem's time. It's a time when Hashem is going to have the nachas and fully be able to express His truth in this world for why He created the world to begin with. In a sense, we can say that Hashem never really had true nachas from this creation yet. And therefore, at a certain point, we need to mature and grow up and stop thinking about ourselves, about our own olam haba, about our own gain, or what we get out of serving God, but what does God get out of it? And God gets out of it His dream that He wanted to have a home in this world by the time in the days of Moshiach. That should become a personal thing. By the Rebbe, by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, it was his personal drive. You see, he couldn't sit still for a second until every part of the world would be filled with God's light. That's what Hashem wants. And the Rebbe empowered us that each and every one of us should have that same drive and sense of connection to Hashem, which means the utter selflessness. And the reason we're able to do so, we need a Rebbe to reveal this. That's the idea. We need the super soul to be able to reveal this in us, but we all have a nitzutz of Mashiach inside of us. And as we explained, that nitzutz of Mashiach is the deepest essence of your soul, where your neshama and Hashem are perfectly one. And therefore Hashem's essential desire is actually our desire. That's what we explained then. Then I was going to go on to phase number 2. And phase number 2 was where the Rebbe spoke, not that we just have to do, which came 2 months later in his talks. Not only do we have to do whatever it takes to bring Mashiach, but since Mashiach is already in the threshold, and he already has 1 foot in, we have to start living in the consciousness and the awareness of Mashiach as if Mashiach is here already. That's going to be the topic in our next class, hopefully next week Sunday, talking about now what. But when I was learning that, I realized that unless we appreciate very, very strongly why we are living in Mashiach's times, what is the power of the time that we're in right now, it's hard for us to make that switch from a Gullus mindedness, from an exile mindedness to a Mashiach mindedness regarding to actual daily living. So in order for us to be able to do that in actual daily living, it requires that we fully appreciate the awesomeness of the time that we're in right now. The time that we're in right now is a very mixed time. It's really like what we call in Hebrew Bein Hashmashes. It's a twilight. On the one hand, there is a great darkness, a tremendous hell and vehester, in a sense bigger than we've ever had in all of history, is that the Jewish people were left without its ultimate leader. I know there are rabbis and there are great people. I'm talking on a more mystical level. There are people who can paskin shaylos and there are people who can give advice. But I'm talking about, let me say this way. From the Baal Shem Tov and onward, there must have been always throughout all of history, but as we got close to Mashiach, from the Baal Shem Tov and onward, there was a tzaddik yesod olam, a tzaddik that the world connected to as the foundation of the world, and that continued. And then in the last 20 so years, the voice that spoke strongly and guided and directed and pushed us to new horizons and directed the Jewish people in a way unparalleled, that voice we're not hearing. Which I say was silenced. Obviously, you see the power of that voice continues every day to inspire thousands and thousands of Jews in mitzvahs and so on and so forth. But to our physical ears, we can't hear it. So it's a very great darkness. On the other hand, it's the most amazing time because the Geula has already begun. So that's and I guess it's everybody's choice if we want to live in darkness or we want to live in the deeper reality. So what I'd like to share today is to crystallize this truth. I forgot something over here, just 1 second. Oops, I thought I have it. Give me 1 minute. Oh, it's right over here. Sorry. See? Sometimes you think you don't have something, but you really do have it. It's right by you. You don't have to look for it. It's there. Okay. So what I'd like to do is like this. In the years... Oops. Don't want to hear my echo. Okay. So in the years 1990, 1991, and 1992, we were Zeiche. We merited incredible revelation. And at that time, the Lubavitcher Rebbe was quoting certain Midrashim. Now, when it comes to Moshiach, there's a lot of Midrash. Generally, the Rebbe very strongly relied and based on Rambam, which is halacha. In other words, we have to know that the main criteria for Mashiach's coming is always halacha. But the Rambam doesn't touch on everything. One of the things the Rambam really doesn't talk about in his book of halacha is Besuras HaGeula. Where is the Besura? Where is the announcement of Geula going to come from? The Rambam mentions that there's different opinions. Some say Eliyahu Navi is going to come, and so on and so forth, what, where, and when. And the Rambam kind of says, stay out of that because we don't know these things until they will happen. This particular thing, the order, the wars, and things like that, Rambam says that's not important. Know the essentials of Mashiach, what the time period is, the essence, appreciate what the time period is about, and which we discussed in our earlier classes, Mashiach Decoded. How do we appreciate and understand the period of Mashiach? What is its essence? We'll say very briefly, we discussed that it's shleimus of Torah and mitzvahs. It's the first time in all of history where there is going to be observance in its complete state. The Jewish people are going to have we are going to be able to observe all the 613 commandments to its fullest state like we've never been able to do in all of history. That's the Gedder according to Rambam, meaning the criteria, the definition of the days of Mashiach. And the Rambam says we do have to know how to identify Mashiach. So the Rambam gives identifying things in which we have to see in a person so that that person would be able to qualify as being Moshiach Tzidkenu. And some other things that the Rambam talks about, the general time period of what life is going to be like after Mashiach comes briefly. Regarding the Besura of the Geula, the Rambam says, it's not clear. The Rambam says there is mashmois that a Navi will get up. There will be a Navi for the Jewish people before Mashiach comes. And that Navi will kind of prepare the Jewish people for the Geula, for the redemption. I did mention to you in our earlier class, also called a progress report, that the Rambam is adamant on that in his Pirish, in his Igeres HaTeiman, in his letter that he writes to the Yemenite Jews. Rambam writes as follows: Ve'ein safik, there's no doubt, Chazaras HaNavuah, the return of prophecy, Hi Akdamas HaMoshiach, is an introduction to Moshiach. So we know that there will be prophecy before that. Now, traditionally, the Jewish people always had it in their mind, which they heard from their fathers and fathers' fathers, from their bubbies, and so on and so forth. This is the way we've always seen it. If I go back to my childhood days, and I don't think I was dreaming about this too much, but I did sometimes think about Mashiach. All kids, we imagine that. And the picture we all have in our mind is like, what is it going to be like? And we all have this imagination that Eliyahu Navi, who's supposed to come, Avasar HaGeula, that Eliyahu Hanavi is going to come. And how is he going to come? He's this person who's going to walk one day into shuls. That's what I always used to think. Where is he going to come? He's going to come to all shuls, probably simultaneously. How can he be in all places at one time? I don't know. He's going to come into all the shuls and knock on the bima when Jews are there, and he's maybe a Shabbos or something, or I don't know if, I think the Gemara has a question if Eliyahu can be Mavasa the Gul on Shabbos. So let's say another time. And he comes and he bangs on the bima and he says, Yidden, Mashiach is coming in 3 days. And the Jewish people, everybody can't believe it. And then we all go running out of shul and we meet other people from other shuls and they say, also, did it happen by you? So and so. We saw the Navi, Mashiach is coming. And first we dance and we sing, we don't know what to do with each other. And we prepare, we say Tehillim, we do tshuva, we want to prepare ourselves a little bit for the great Giyul. And then Mashiach comes riding into town on a donkey with a big shofar. That's the way we've always seen it, believed it, and thought it would be. Okay, there's a source for that, for the idea that the Navi has to come. It's interesting, Rambam doesn't put that as criteria for Mashiach, that the Navi has to. He says Yamud Navi, but he doesn't say the Navi. There are Midrashim that speak about Besuras HaGeula, but not coming from Eliyahu Hanavi, but a Besura for Geula coming from both, from Hashem. How does Hashem's Besura come here? Obviously through prophets. That's how Hashem's Besura comes to the Jewish people. And also that there is a Besura coming to us from Mashiach himself. In other words, Mashiach Tzidkenu himself, before the Geula, notifies the Jewish people about the up-and-coming redemption. And let me read to you those Midrash. So the Midrash is as follows. Now again, when it comes to Midrashim, you have to be careful because there's so many things, and we don't know. When so much of what Chazal said it means in a way of a mashal. Not everything means in the literal. So and it's impossible for people like ourselves to be able to decide which Midrash to take seriously, and meaning we take every Midrash seriously, but which ones mean in the literal sense and which ones mean more metaphorical, and so on and so forth. So therefore, what the Midrashim that I am using are Midrashim that the Lubavitcher Rebbe shared with the Jewish people, and he actually pointed to these Midrashim as things that are not only futuristic things that are going to happen, but are things that are currently or that have happened already in the world regarding Mashiach. So I'm leaning on the Rebbe's shoulders to be able to share with you this. And the Rebbe clearly pointed to these things and pointed to them as a very actual reality that's taking place in our physical world. So then we know that these are the meaning of the Midrash. On my own, I would never say this. Okay? So here's a Midrash in Yalkut Shemaini, in Yeshaya, on Perek Nun Tes. It's Yalkut Shemaini, Taf Tzadik Tes. You can look it up if you have a Yalkut Shemaini. Yalkut Shemaini comes with Simanim. So this is in Sefer Yeshaya, Taf Tzadik Tes. And here is the Midrash. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak says, Shana Shemelech HaMashiach Niglabai, the year that the King Mashiach reveals himself. Kol Malchei Umay Sa'olam Mizgarim Zeh B'zeh. All the empires of the world are Mizgarim. Mizgarim simply means they're intimidating each other. There is this great intimidation taking place. It's not full-fledged war at this point, but there is an aggression taking place between the various different nations of the world. Melech Paras, the king of Persia, which would generally be translated as Iran, Mizgara b'melech Arvi, is intimidating or starting up, instigating the king of Arabia. Okay, so we have that tension between Persia and Arabia. V'hoilech melech Arvi, so the king of Arabia goes to Aram, whoever that is, we'll soon see, to go take counsel. He needs help, he's terrified. The king of Persia goes and destroys the world. And all the people of the world get to tumult. Everybody gets very, 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 very shooken up. And confused. V'noiflam al paneim, they fall on their faces. Now, obviously, when he says that they destroy the world, can't mean that he destroys the world literally, because if he destroyed the world, who's getting scared and who's running around without a head? So it seems like he does something which kind of shakes everyone, which unnerves, basically talking about an unnerving of the various different peoples in the world. And they suddenly receive pangs of fear, like the pangs of a woman giving birth, like labor pains. The Yisroel misrashem umizbalam, and the Jewish people get shooken up and confused. And they say, where should we come? And where should we go? Where should we go? And the Eibishter says, B'ni, and Hashem, here it doesn't say in the Midrash who says. One of the, in the Sichas of the Rebbe, he says, that Hashem says to the Jewish people, Banai al tisra'u, my children, don't be afraid. Kol masha asisi lo yasisi ela b'shvilchem. Whatever I have done it for your sake. Mipnei ma'atem misyarim, why are you afraid? Al tiro, don't be afraid. See 2 times, don't be afraid. Hegiaz mangu laschem, the time of your redemption has arrived. There is a notification at that time when this contentious state in the world, and everybody's scared, there is a haftacha, there is a promise coming from Hashem. Don't be afraid. I've done this for your sake, and I don't want to harm you. The time of redemption has arrived. And then the Midrash continues, and that this geula is not like the earlier geula where afterwards you had a galus after that, another exile. This is going to be a permanent, eternal redemption. Okay. This is the Midrash. Okay. Now there's a few more Midrashim in which we will talk about soon, but let's first take a look at this Midrash. We're talking about the Middle East, and we're talking about tremendous tension happening in the Middle East. We might say it's talking about Iran today's days. Iran is threatening, and that's Paras. The Lubavitcher Rebbe in the summer of 1990, Tafshin Nun. This was the time when something happened in the world that caused a big uproar in the Middle East. And that was that Saddam Hussein, with his Iraqi army, went into Kuwait and basically tried to annex Kuwait and just expand Iraq. And he thought he'll get away with it. This was a tremendous, tremendous threat, in addition to the aggression to the Kuwaitis, which Kuwait obviously did not have an army to defend themselves. It was a tremendous threat to neighboring Saudi Arabia. And being that the whole world at that time, and still today, but today less than then, was very reliant on the oil from that area, it caused a tremendous uproar in all the nations, in Europe, in the United States, and so forth. And at that point, no one knew exactly the strength of the Iraqi army, and Iraq had kind of built up a pretty significant army. They were pretty strong. Obviously, as we saw later, they were no match for the United States, but they were, and they were definitely a threat. What caused even a greater tension was that Iraq, in order to protect itself, warned the people in the world community, the United States and everyone else, that don't mess with me, because if you're going to try to muscle me and push me out of Kuwait, I'm going to fight back. But I am going to lob some Scud missiles over to Israel, and I'm going to send over chemical weapons. I've done that, and he has proven that he's done that to the Kurds, and I will do it again, and I don't care. Meaning, the horror of killing men, women, and children with chemical weapons doesn't intimidate me. So obviously that threw Israel into a panic. Again, being that the whole world is invested in that area and the oil and so on and so forth, so it was something that the people couldn't let happen, and you couldn't let him get away with it. On the other hand, there was also another extra fear to this. Iraq had some, in the past, historically, connections with the Soviet Union. Now, even though this was at the time when the Soviet Union was falling apart and the transformation back to just Russia, the new, I don't know what they call it today, but, and this was right at the conclusion of the Cold War, there was, of course, the fear that Russia would get involved in this, and this can turn into World War III. It had all the ingredients to become a major world conflict. And everybody was scared what was going to happen. And again, Israel in particularly were very, very afraid. At that time, this Midrash, stated in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, began to float. In other words, started making its way around the Jewish community. Who was the first person who found this Midrash, exposed it, sent it out? And you realize information did not travel like today. This is still before the internet, let alone before WhatsApp and Facebook and all these other ways of instant social media. So, you had to send copies and faxes and call people and actually, but it started to get around there. It did not originate from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He wasn't the first one that quoted it. It kind of started circulating. The Rebbe spoke about it. I'm not going to say he picked up on the buzz that was on it and embraced it. I don't know where the Rebbe's, inspiration or that he took this Midrash and he started repeating it. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe started mentioning this Midrash in the summer of 1990, and he continued quoting this Midrash again and again and again, all the way through 1992, all the way through, like you say, in mid-1992, like what we said before his stroke. And the Rebbe kept on pointing, and the Rebbe said very, very clearly that this Midrash is being fulfilled in that war. So now we go back for a moment to the Midrash. The Midrash says that this is going to happen, Shana shemelech HaMoshiach nigla boi. So we're talking right at the very end, the year that Melech HaMoshiach becomes revealed to the world. He's revealed. And in that year, all this is going to happen. The problem we have is that the Midrash says Melech Paras, and Paras is Iran. And Iran was not involved in that conflict, or at least not a major contender in that conflict. It's more between Saudi Arabia and Iraq. So I'm going to quote to you from the Sikha. Now, I'm going to quote you a bunch of places where the Rebbe mentions this. And what I'd like to notice the nuanced differences as the Rebbe is progressing with this Midrash. So this is not the first time he mentions it, but I am quoting this as number one, my first quote. And the reason is because over here he clarifies how this applies to that particular conflict. So this is in Shabbos Parshas Bereishis, in Sefer HaSichos, the Sefer of the Talks, of the year of Tafshin Nun Aleph. At that time it's still 1990, but it's the Tishrei of Tafshin Nun Aleph. I would say, October time of 1990. The Rebbe says, I'm just quoting what it says. The happenings, the occurrences that happen in the Persian Gulf, these are from the signs of the redemption. Like Chazal say regarding to the tension and the instigation that's going on amongst nations. More specifically, Melech Paras, the king of Persia, the Ka'i Bepashtis, and he says it, and this is in parentheses, the Ka'i Bepashtis, in simple, it's referring ala Shetach, on the area Shekula Iraq, that is completely Iraq. Now, if you look at there is a when they gave the Rebbe in the letter, the Sikha, the talk to edit, the Rebbe would speak on Shabbos, people would write it down and would give the Rebbe. If you look actually at the Rebbe's footnote, you see it's written slightly different than it's over here. Over there it's written not Shekulai Iraq, but shekolul Iraq, which means it includes Iraq, not only Iraq. In other words, the area of Paras include what's called Paras in Chazal includes Iraq as well, not just Iran. Shekolul Iraq. So, and therefore, the Rebbe says that this is being fulfilled at this time. Mizgare b'melech Arvi. He is instigating and fighting and starting up with the king of Arabia. King of Arabia is, the Rebbe didn't have to say this. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, obviously this is the center of the Arabic world. And all the nations in the world get terrified and get scared. Now, I'm going to quote for a moment, not in this talk, but in a couple of weeks later, in Parshas Chayesara, a few weeks after that, Chav Beis Machashben and Sefer Asichas, page 138, he brings this idea again. Kol umayis olam is rashim umizbalim, kefi sharayim b'muchish, like we see in the literal sense, how bilbul the umayis olam, the tremendous bilbul, confusion of the nations of the world. They don't know. And the Rebbe said this in Chayesara, so we are probably talking in November. So this is right before, actually, it was getting very, very close. President Bush Sr. was beginning to amass a tremendous coalition against Iraq. So everybody was very, very intimidated, not knowing what was going to happen. And they're seeking different things, which is what it's saying in the Midrash. So he's pointing out that too has been fulfilled. And I told you earlier, the Rebbe says that who says? The Midrash says he says. Now, one thing I do want to say, take note. I'm going to show you many, many quotes where the Rebbe is bringing this Midrash, because I want to point out a certain progression. But you take note, the Rebbe always left out one thing, that Umelech Paras goes and he destroys the world. That the Rebbe doesn't say. Because that never happened. That's why the Rebbe doesn't say it. It never happened. Or also because the Rebbe, al tiftach peh, you don't want to say something negative. So just a side note, you have people today, and respected rabbis, I can disagree, but who for some reason like to, I don't know if they like to, but they feel maybe it's their duty to threaten and to scare people that there's going to be big wars and who knows, and everybody's going to die, and whoever doesn't do tshuva, so on and so forth. I'm following my teacher. Never, ever, 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 ever did the Lubavitcher Rebbe say anything like that and threaten. And chas v'sholem, he was very, very upset if anybody ever threatened the Jewish people. We've had a Holocaust, and if we ever needed to do things to have some kind of whatever before Mashiach comes, we were Yaitza, we fulfilled our obligation above and beyond. So let's not go there. Mashiach's coming does not have to have any blood, and it doesn't have to have any suffering. That's just a parenthetical thing. And Hashem says to the Jewish people, like you see Taka from the Midrash. Again, as I mentioned earlier, in Israel, they were terrified. They were handing out, I was there in Eretz Yisrael during that time. When I was there, they started already giving out gas masks for different people, that every people should protect themselves. So the Rebbe said then that the Eibishter says, Al tirou, don't be afraid. The time of your redemption has arrived. In other words, you should know that this is part of the Geula process. Okay. That's what it says. Now, as I mentioned, Parshas Bereishis was not the first time it was mentioned. That's already quite into it. Let's go back to the earlier in the summer of 1990 when this whole business was beginning. So in a talk that was given in the middle of the month of Elul, I think the 22nd of Elul or the 14th of Elul, I have a copy here, but I don't have the exact date, but it's on page 692 in the book of Sichos from the year Tafshin Nun. I just want to show one interesting note over here. The Rebbe brings the same thing. Befrat, he says that we see already as Verem Mekuyim, it's being fulfilled as Simonim in what Chazal say. The Siman Vashteit in Yalkut Shemoini, the sign that it says in Yalkut Shemoini. As the Rebbe says, Simoni Geula are already happening in the world. which we've already mentioned many times. So again, this is the end of Elul. The Rebbe is saying, I mentioned this already many times. That what? Shana shemelech HaMashiach nigla boy, the year that Mashiach is revealed. All the kings of the nations, Mizgarim, Zeh, they are intimidating each other. Fine. And he says, Melech Paras Mizgar b'Melech Arvi, v'hoylech Melech Arvi la'aram. So who is the Arabian king going to? Who is Saudi Arabia and Kuwait turning to? They're turning to Aram. So elsewhere, the Rebbe says that what does Aram mean? Aram means a superpower. Ram Meloshin Romamos. It means the nations that have power. Like we see Arabia turn then to Europe, to the United States. People that can interfere, that have power. But over here in Ara 64, the Rebbe notes, Ube Psikta Sham, there is a Psikta, meaning this Midrash is not only in Yalkut Shemaini, it's also in Psikta. Psikta is another version of Midrash. Over there, it brings the same idea, but it changes one word, not Aram, but Le'edom. You can see how the two words get confused. They're almost the same. It's just one is with a Dalet and one is with a Resh. So the king of Persia goes to Edom. The king of Arabia goes to Edom. That makes. Who's Edom? Edom is the Western world. The United States of America. The Europeans. That's Edom. As we know, we have tradition from the Abarbanel that the whole Christian world is where Edom was translated to the to the Roman Empire, which later is the father of all these nations. So, therefore, this Midrash is very accurate. Now, and let me show you another one of these states. One of the first times that it is mentioned, Parshas Re'eh, that's earlier, in already before the month of El, the month of Shabbos Mevorchen El. Again, he brings Befrat as Shem Mekuyim Gevorn. It has been already fulfilled. The Simanim that Chazal say, the Siman in Yalkut Shemaini, and he brings the whole Medrash. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Shana Shemelech, V'Amar Banai Al Tisro. Don't be afraid. Why are you afraid? Al Tiro Agiyaz Mangulascha. Fine. King Tia Lanu. Listen to this phrase. So what should be to us? As Mahat Lechatchila Nishva Sich Tzishrekin. We have nothing to be afraid. We have already the promise. As Al Tiro, don't be afraid. Gam Lashon Haftacha, it's a promise. Higiyaz Mangulascha, the time of redemption has arrived. Now, I do want to mention something. The words of the Navi were fulfilled, in the sense that when everybody was terrified during that time, and people really didn't know what to do, and hundreds of Bachram were leaving Eretz Yisrael when it got close because they were terrified. Parents wanted their kids home because of the situation. The Rebbe then encouraged people to continue going to Eretz Yisrael and telling the people in Eretz Yisrael not to be afraid. And every time they asked him about the gas masks, the Rebbe dismissed it. It's not necessary. And with certainty, you can watch, besides the Rebbe speaking about it publicly, but also when people came by dollars, again and again and again, Sunday dollar distribution, he keeps on telling people, I mentioned many times that Eretz Yisrael is the safest place. Eretz Asher Ein Hashem Kechol Bomed Eishes Hashanah Achris Hashanah. It was unbelievable. And when the Scuds did finally come in, first of all, there were no chemical weapons. Secondly, we saw the most unbelievable miracles because these Scuds, imagine a school bus flying through the air and hitting a building. One such Scud hit an American base, and there was a lot of casualties. I think about 200 casualties from one Scud. I think he sent 39 Scuds, or 49 or 39, I remember the exact number, into Israel, and no one was killed. There was one or two people who died from a heart attack. There was one exception of one person that was killed from a Scud. The person was an open Meicher Chazer. He was selling, I don't want to say reasons. I'm not here to Chas v'shalom condemn any Jews. But other than that, besides a few minor bruises and scratches, and again, there was some problems with people who died because of the panic, and they got heart attacks and so on and so forth. And that's what the Rebbe was trying to avoid. Don't be afraid, be calm, you're safe. But it was amazing how buildings actually collapsed and everybody came out okay. Miracles that were just, it's inexplainable what happened. but also the idea that no one knew that at that time, you couldn't know, that he threatened that he was going to use chemical weapons, and nothing happened. So we had, let me take that back for a moment. I don't know if he threatened openly that he was going to use chemical weapons, or we assumed that he was going to use chemical weapons because we knew that he used it before. I'm not sure if he openly had the chutzpah to say that he was going to use them. That I don't know. In any case, I can't say something that I'm not sure of. This is what happened. Now, the problem is, number one, the Midrash says that this is going to happen in Shana Shemelech HaMoshiach Nigla, the year that Melech HaMoshiach is revealed. Now, many years passed since that time, and the obvious question is, where's Mashiach? Mashiach didn't come yet. That's a good question. But let me continue over here with a continuation of this Midrash. The Midrash continues after two dots, so it's like a new beginning. Shanu Rabbi Seinu, our teachers learned, B'shah shemelech HaMashiach ba, at the time when Melech HaMashiach comes, Oimeid al gag beis HaMikdash, Melech HaMashiach stands on the roof of the Holy Temple. V'umashmiya lahem li Yisroel, and he notifies, and he's mashmiya, and he lets the Jewish people know. V'oimer, and he says, Anavim igia zman geulaschem, my humble ones, the time of your redemption has arrived. V'mein atem aminim, and if you don't believe me, Re'u ba'oiri shezareach, look at my light that is shining upon you. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Kumi oiri, get up and shine light. Ki ba'oirech, that your light has come. Kvoid Hashem, and the glory of God, Olayich zarach, is shining upon you. So again, I'll to explain the difference. Now, this became a very popular medrash because Mordechai ben David or Yossi Green made a song on it. B'shah shemelech HaMashiach ba, oimed al gag beis anavim, right? Higia zman geulaschem. Now, what's the difference between this medrash? It seems to say the same idea, that there is a besura, Yidden, don't be afraid, higia zman geulaschem. No, here it doesn't say don't be afraid. Here it just says anavim higia zman geulaschem. The difference between the first medrash and the second medrash, the first medrash is talking about the year that Moshiach is going to reveal itself. It does not say when exactly a year. It can be the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year. The besura that the Geula is coming from Hashem. And as we said earlier, how is it getting to the Jewish people? Through a Navi, whatever. Hashem is going to get that message through. Maybe the idea even that this medrash suddenly was noticed and it started being spread by whoever it was. That's a way that Hashem sometimes gets things done. I have no doubt that the Geula gatherings that happened last week is Hashem sending a ruach of Geula to the world, and a sensitive souls pick it up. And it's time to gather. It's time to unify. It's time to get ready for the coming of Mashiach. That can happen. What's unique about the second medrash is that the Besuras HaGeula is actually coming from Mashiach. At the time, and we're talking actually at the time that he's actually coming. He stands on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, and it tells you where he's standing, specifically, on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, and he tells the Jewish people, Anavim, my humble ones, the time of redemption has arrived. And it seems like his message is not necessarily so easily accepted, because he has to argue with them, he has to prove it. He says, if you don't believe me, if you don't believe me, take a look at my light. My light is shining. Okay. So, what's interesting is that when the Rebbe is quoting all the way back in Parshas Re'eh, when the Rebbe was quoting regarding the war of Malchus Paras, the Persian Gulf War, the Rebbe wasn't only quoting the first medrash, the first part of the Yalkut Shemaini, the Rebbe was also quoting the second part, as he says over here. In Der Noch, on page 641, Parshas Re'eh, and afterwards is Mamshech in Yalkut, he continues in Yalkut, Shanu Rabbi Seinu, our Rebbe say, B'shah Melech HaMashiach ba, at the time when Melech HaMashiach comes, Oimed al Gag Beis HaMikdash, he stands on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, V'mashmiya lahem li Yisroel, v'oimed anavim higia zman geulaschem. And he lets the Jewish people know when he says, My humble ones, the time of the redemption has arrived. So now, again, the second Midrash doesn't say it has anything to do with the war. It just says that the time that Melech HaMashiach appears, he tells the Jewish people that the Geula is coming. Let me, for one moment, tell you an interesting story. At that time that this whole buzz was going on in the Jewish world, so someone in Chabad went and hung up this Midrash, made a copy of the Midrash and enlarged it, and hung it up in 770. If you look in 770, the Rebbe would always walk in from the back, and he would walk to his stender and daven. Then he would walk back, and there was always a shvil, a line, and people were singing. The Rebbe would walk right by. And the Rebbe walked, and there was a door there, and he would go upstairs and go back to. So he hung it up on the back door, but when he hung up the Midrash, he only hung up the first part of the Midrash. He did not, in that paper, write the second part, about that the B'shashe Melech HaMashiach. Fine. When the Rebbe walked by, and he saw that settle hanging, he went upstairs. Now, I did not hear the story firsthand. There is a sefer that I've been using for all these teachings that I'm teaching about Moshiach called Inyanoi Shel Moshiach. A lot of my information I'm gleaning from him by a fellow by the name Rabbi Wolf. I met him myself when I was in Eretz Yisroel, a fabulous young man and just very, very, very special, and who has studied the subject years upon years and has a very, very thorough understanding and wrote the clearest book I've ever seen on it. And generally he's very accurate. And I see that he's very, very careful. He brings this story and he says, Ki yadua, as it is known. So I can't say I verified this 100%, but so is known. So they say that when the Rebbe went upstairs, like a little while later, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes later, this person who hung up that settle, that note, was asked by the maskiris, by the secretaries, he was called, and he was asked how come he only quoted the first Midrash and not the second Midrash, the one that talks about B'shashe Melech HaMashiach. In other words, the Rebbe was saying, if you're putting up the Midrash, put the whole thing. Okay. Now, these two Midrashim kept on being quoted the entire year of 1990, 1991, all the way to 92, and they were always quoted together. But here I want to point out to you a very interesting thing to take note. And that is, in Parshas Re'eh, when he quotes these two Midrashim, one of the first times, not the first time, but one of the first times, he says, Kain Tialanu, that we have nothing to be afraid of, like I mentioned to you. That what? Because we have already the haftacha. Which haftacha? We have the promise, which it says, Al tiro, don't be afraid, which is the first part of the Midrash, talking about the war and the haftacha, the promise coming from Hashem. And then he continues, V'chein tialanu, and so it should be to us that we should be zoichet to the second part of the Midrash, that Moshiach tzedkenu zol b'poyel kumen, that Moshiach tzedkenu should come b'poyel in actuality. Shoin should come already. In Shoin Stein al Gag Beis HaMikdash, and he should already stand on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash. Umachris umashmiya zayin, and he should already announce and notify as Mashiach is Shoin Gekumen that Mashiach came already. Okay, so you see clearly in these words that there is a differentiation between the first half of the Midrash and the second half of the Midrash. The first half of the Midrash, the Rebbe seems to apply, happened already. But the second half of the Midrash, that Moshiach is notifying the Jewish people that the Geula came, that Igiyas Man Gulaschem, that the Geula is here, that didn't happen yet. And that we're hoping should happen, and hopefully it should happen now. But let me show you a little change in that as the year progressed. So we go to Shabbos Parshas Chayesara, and I quoted this to you earlier. The Rebbe quotes again these two midrashim. This is what is it? The Parshas Chayesara from Parshas Re'eh. We're talking about 2.5 months later. He brings the Midrash. He gives Magulaschem Amam Shech Shemelech HaMashiach Oimed Al Gag Beis HaMikdash Mishlam Yisroel. And Mashiach also announces, and he says, Anava Megiyaz Mangul Aschem, and hear these words, that these, Kefi Shehechrizu, you should know that what? No, let me just go back a second. The Rebbe says that at this point, we're living mamish, at this moment, we're living mamish at the time of the redemption, in which the Friediger Rebbe, the previous Chabad Rebbe said, Amdu Hochen Kulchem, that we all have to stand ready for the Geula. Lekabel Panei Mashiach Tzedkenu, that we have to be ready to receive Mashiach. Val Achas Kama V'Kama B'Yameinu Eila, and how much more so in our days, specifically, when we see what's happening in the world, it has to bring us to a point that we should ready ourselves with extra, with an extra urgency, because these things are already being fulfilled. And then the Rebbe says, brings these, what's being fulfilled? He brings the two Midrashim, like it has been announced, umachrizen, and we are continuously announcing b'miyuchad la'achreina. Now he mentions two times, it was announced and is continuously being announced la'achreina. From the mashmois, and I'm going to show you later that it's not just mashmois, which means I'm not picking, making little thing. The reason I'm pointing to this one is because this one is the beginning of the shift. Later you'll see it being said even stronger and stronger, where you can't even, I'm not making an assumption. It's clear that it's being said. But over here, it seems to be saying, the reason why he's saying like it was announced and like it is being currently announced recently, is that the Rebbe is referring to two announcements. The announcement coming from the Eibishter, the announcement coming from Hashem, that in the general time, in the year that Mashiach is coming, when all this commotion is happening. And the announcement coming from Melech HaMashiach himself, that is announcing to the Jewish people, and that he is saying, Yigiyaz Mangul Lasem. As he says, Kefi shehechrizu imachrizim b'miyuchad la'achreina. It's like it was announced, and it is being announced specifically lately. That specifically lately, this announcement, you have to hear something else. Not just the announcement from the Eibishter, but also the announcement of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Now, if you think, oh, come on, that's a far stretch, especially on something so powerful and something so important, let's look further. Uleheir, so I'm looking over here in footnote 108. So let me tell you something for those that are not familiar. Footnotes in the Sichos, the Rebbe is very careful. Every single thing he says, he's always medayek to give you sources. Everything is sourced. Just give me 1 second. So he always sources. Now, in the footnotes, sometimes you have like extra insertions. So these can either be from things the Rebbe said during the main Farbrengen, the unedited version, it was said, and later when they edited, they took it out from the main and they put it on the bottom as a footnote, or sometimes the Rebbe would add it and write it himself later as an addition. So in this footnote over here in Ara 108, he says an amazing thing. Leheir mediyek lashon ha-medrash. Take note and look carefully at the words of the Midrash. That oimed al gag beis hamikdash, that Mashiach is standing on the roof of the beis hamikdash. What's the significance of the roof? Shegagin loy niskachu. Why is he standing on it? You would say the reason he's standing on the roof is because he needs to have a megaphone. He needs everybody to hear him. So he stands on the roof of the beis hamikdash so that everybody can hear him. But the Rebbe says no. You know what's significant? The roof. The Rebbe is going to learn this Midrash homiletically. It doesn't mean that he's actually standing on the Beis HaMikdash, on the third Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. How do we know that? The Rebbe says the roof, if you learn halacha in regard to the Beis HaMikdash, the entire Beis HaMikdash was holy, but the roofs did not have, on top of the roof did not have a kedusha. Technically, with a helicopter, you might be able to land a tummy person to walk on the roof. You'd have to ask a shaila, and they're not in violation of walking into a place that you're not allowed to, because the roof, it was I don't know if it was in the Skadish, it didn't have any holiness, even Kedushas Harabayas, or if it Bechlal, or only Kedushas of the Heichal. I'm not exactly sure. You can check with your LOR, your local Orthodox rabbi. But in any case, the Gagin are not Niskadish, and therefore it says in Masechtas Pesachim and in Rambam, the Yesh Loimar, And that's why it's emphasizing that he's standing on the roof. Shebezeh merumas, with this he is hinting to. Shahachraza, the announcement. Hanavim egiaz mangu laschem, my humble ones, the time of the redemption has arrived. Ba mechutz li'aretz. It's coming from a place that's not holy. It's coming from chutz li'aretz, from outside of Eretz Yisrael. Shaloi niskatshu b'kedushas Eretz Yisrael. A place that's not holy with the holiness of Eretz Yisrael. It means just like the roof of the Beis HaMikdash has no kedushas HaMikdash. So it's coming to say that the announcement that we're talking about, that Melech HaMashiach is announcing, is not from the land of Israel. It's not from the Beis HaMikdash. It's from a place that doesn't have the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, like the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, and from there it is being announced. Like the difference between the roof of the Beis HaMikdash to the inside of the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, so the Rebbe is clearly saying that we're talking about an announcement. And again, in which Midrash is he talking about? The end of the Midrash, which Moshiach Tzidkenu himself is telling the Jewish people, "Anavim, my humble ones, egiaz mangul aschem." And the Rebbe is saying it's coming from chutz li'aretz. Okay, so what was said over here, very, very briefly, in another talk, in Sefer Asichis Taf Shin Nun Beis. You see, I have it here. Nope. Again, I'm going to step away for a second because I don't want to miss this. Excuse my lack of professionalism. I dafka went and made copies so I don't have to be busy pulling out all the books. But this is one that I forgot to make a copy from. And I realize this is going to enhance what I am saying tremendously. So, there is a kuntris that the Rebbe gave out called Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel. And in that kuntris, again, this is from talks and from over here it says clearly, which is an amazing thing. Give me just 1 second till I find it. I used to learn I used a different print lately. Hold on. Oh, here. In Ara 38, in Kuntras Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, this is from Sefer Asichas Tafshin Nun Beis, page 468. There the Rebbe adds another proof that it can't be that Melech HaMoshiach is actually standing on the third Beis HaMikdash. Because he says if Mashiach is standing already on the third Beis HaMikdash, that means the third Beis HaMikdash is already built already. Now, let's think for a second. We have a mosque. Al-Aqsa Mosque is on there. You remove that mosque and build a Beis HaMikdash over there, and obviously, we thought that when they're going to move the embassy to Jerusalem, there's going to be a World War III. But no one would dare think of actually going up, clearing the mosque, and actually building the third Beis HaMikdash. So obviously, we know that ain't going to happen until Moshiach Tzidkenu is here. Especially if we take the idea, what it says in Zohar and Rashi and Tosfos and so on and so forth, the third Beis HaMikdash is coming from Shemayim. So if you have a third temple coming from Shemayim, obviously it's already after Mashiach is here already, and after the whole world knows that Mashiach is here already. What in the world do you need Mashiach to stand on the roof of the third Beis HaMikdash at that point and tell the Jewish people, Anavim, humble ones, egiaz mangul aschem? That's what he says. V'ula yesh loymar, shemasha kaseh b'medrash shebishah shemelech HaMashiach bo oimid al gag Beis HaMikdash, and he tells the Jewish people, Anavim mangul aschem. It's referring, he says, what is it referring to? He says it's not referring to the third Beis, it's referring to the main shul of the Beis Rabbeinu. In this talk, which is, I actually discussed it this year in Parshas Truma. I gave my Monday night class in which we discussed this. I gave over this phenomenal talk. In that talk, the Rebbe discusses that there is one central location. He brings it, well, again, nothing is made up. Everything is Mamareh Chazal. The Gemara says that the Shechina dwells in all shuls. Every shul is a Beis HaMikdash. But there's one primary Beis HaMikdash, which is Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, the house of Rabbeinu. And what the Gemara said is referring to the Amora Rav. But the Rebbe says that in every generation there's a Beis Rabbeinu. And over there he goes on to explain how it's the Nasi Hadar, the leader of the generation, and his shul. And the Rebbe goes on to say such an powerful thing, that the Hisgalus of Moshiach and the moment of redemption, the ground zero of redemption, is not what people think is going to happen in Eretz Yisrael overlooking the Temple Mount. It's not. He said it actually happens in the place where the Shekhinah is, because the Shekhinah doesn't leave the Gullus until the very last second, because the Shekhinah doesn't go out until she grabs every last Jew. And where is the Shekhinah with the Jewish people in exile? So the transformation from Gullus to Geula is going to be where the Shekhinah is, and the Shekhinah is where most of the Jews are, and the Rebbe over there proves that it's in the United States of America. And that's the place where that's where the Rebbe goes so far to say that the third Beis HaMikdash is going to descend first, I don't know, physically or spiritually, again, from his mashma, even physically, into the Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel in Chutz Li'aretz, and from there it's going to go to Eretz Yisrael. So the Rebbe says it could be that when it, this is Yesh Loimar, these are just words, it could be that when we say Moshiach Tzidkenu is standing al Gag Beis HaMikdash, it's referring to the Beis HaMikdash of Chutz Li'aretz, not the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, based on the idea that Gagin, the roofs, Loineskachu, the roofs don't become holy. So the roof that we're talking about, so therefore it's referring to a Beis HaMikdash that doesn't have Kedushas Beis HaMikdash. Shehu the Mir Shebechutz La'aretz, Shehu b'Makayim HaMikdash b'Yerushalayim. And the Rebbe says, why? Ki la'achrei shebemikdash ha'asid yizgal ve'yered lamata. After the Beis HaMikdash is already going to be revealed below, lo yitzarich lashmi al Yisroel. You don't have to make the Jewish people hear Egiyas Mangulaschem, the time of redemption is right. Of course, everybody knows the Giyul is here. Especially if we can say that if you take a look at the Midrash continues that the Jewish people don't believe Mashiach. In other words, they're not picking up on that. In other words, when he says Egiyas Mangulaschem, they're still not believing him. How is it possible not to believe if the Moshiach Tzidkenu is standing on the roof of the third Beis HaMikdash? So it must be that it's alluding to a time when it's possible for people not to believe Melech HaMoshiach. And he has to convince them. He has to tell them, Re'u ba'ori shezareach. We'll leave that for soon. But for now, all I'm trying to prove over here is that over here, the Rebbe referring to the Midrash that Mashiach announces this, what I will call this is Besura Sageula, the Besura of the redemption that's coming from Mashiach, that is said in the Midrash to come from Mashiach Tzidkenu himself. The Rebbe over here is pointing that it is happening, or it is current. It happened, or it is currently happening, and it is coming from Chutz Li'aretz. Again, I am not telling you any of my opinions and my ideas. I am just telling you what went down in 770, in the year 1990, 1991, and 1992. You will do with the information what you want to do with the information. I just want you to notice what was said, what was given over. Get the echo. Okay. I'm giving the class. It's an empty room. I'm just doing this for the online audience. I went to get the book, and when my office is open, the speakers are open. So as I'm doing it live, it's playing on the speakers. And as I'm talking, I'm thinking to myself, who in the world is talking so loud? This is annoying. Like I said, the guys coming, because there's a pizza shop downstairs. Is the workers that come in there? Why are they so loud today? See, sometimes you don't realize that you make your own noise. And it's your own noise that's causing you to block to hear. Okay, that's another thing on its own. In any case, where are we holding? Okay, so that's interesting. Now, to further emphasize this, that there's two announcements, and both those announcements happened in that year. Here's another one. This is from, here's another proof that the Rebbe learns that the announcement of Mashiach does not come after Mashiach comes, but it comes during the time of exile. In a talk of Parshas Vayetze. Okay, this is, I told you now from Parshas Chayesara, so 2 weeks later, Parshas Vayetze, the beginning of the month of Kislev. Okay, so we're talking about it probably early December. Ha'ara 123, footnote 123 on page 166 from Sefer Asichas Tafshin and Aleph. In the last moments of the exile. That what? Shegam kasher malchi is mizgaris, even when nations are fighting with each other. Melech paras mizgara b'melech aravi v'chol umay so'ilim misrashim mizbalim. Even when all this commotion is going on in the world, nimtzoim b'nei Yisroel b'mayim d'matzah shel menucha v'shalom. The Jewish people are in a state of tranquility. That's, by the way, another way you can see you're dealing with a true tzaddik. I mentioned earlier that there are those who like the drama and speak about all the millions that are going to die and over that it's not keeping Yiddishkeit, who knows what. The Rebbe doesn't stop keeping and enforcing and saying again and again and again and over and over and over again, without hesitation, without a moment, that to help the Yidden that chas v'shalom. It seems like it's possible that these midrashim and these terrible things that could have materialized. Moshiach can come in many ways, but the tzaddik, the true tzaddik, who's one with the Jewish people, cares about them so much. So he emphasizes again and again that the transition has to be peaceful. And that in the last, even though there is commotion in the world, it doesn't affect the Jewish people. So he goes on to explain over here how even in the last moments of Golus, Yidden, quite on the contrary, it's l'chol b'nei Yisroel ha'orbe mashvaisam. For the Jewish people, there's a lot of light. Everything is good. Everything is wonderful. And he says, the Yidden are in a state of menucha. Even shahakadosh baruch hu oimeh lahem. Since Hashem tells them, Banai al tisra'u, my children, don't be afraid. Kol masha asisi lo yasisi elo b'shvilchem. Everything I've done only for you. Higi man gulaschem. That's the first announcement. And the second announcement, Melech HaMashiach, Goyalan Shel Yisroel, and King Mashiach, who is the Goyal of the Jewish people, Oimed al Gag Beis HaMikdash, is standing on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, and he tells them, Anavim Higi man gulaschem. When? In the last moments of Golus, meaning not when the Geula happened, but before the Geula, in the period of the end of the Golus, Moshiach Tzidkenu was telling the Jewish people. So here's another indication that we're talking about something that happens during the time of Golus. Parshas Yisroel. Fast forward another couple of weeks. Vayishlach, probably another. Talking about this is the end of Shvat. The end of Shvat, Kislev, Tevis, Shvat. 3 months later, he brings the same idea. Gam lifnei ha'geula yoshvim b'nei Yisroel levetach. The Jewish people sit calmly without any fear, because the Malchei Umas Mizgarim Zeh, whatever is happening, the Hashem says to the Jewish people, don't be afraid. And Umelech HaMashiach Oimed al Gag Beis HaMikdash. He's already standing on the Beis HaMikdash, and he tells the Jewish people, don't be afraid. Okay. Now, one of the stunning things that happened during that winter, as well, in the talks of the Rebbe, was in Parshas Mishpatim. I just mentioned Yisroel, so a week later, Shabbos Parshas Mishpatim. The Rebbe, I would say, dropped the bomb. And I'm going to come back to this, Be'ezus Hashem, at the end, but I just want to mention it, just that you get the sequence of events. The Rebbe says, on the end of Parshas, the last bit of the talk on Parshas Mishpatim, on page 330, Sefer Asichas Non Aleph. Again, these are all edited versions, not something that was said quietly, maybe, whatever, someone heard. All edited, meaning the Rebbe looked at over and allowed it to be published. V'yiratzen, let it be the will, as durach derei safa b'limud pnimiyas haTorah. Through this that we add on in learning Chasidus, we learn the internal, inner part of the Torah. Zolmen teikef amiyad zoiche zayin, we should immediately be zoche to Talmidei Biyadeh, we should be able to come with our studies to Olam Haba, to the future world. And to come where? To learn in Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitze. We should bring the knowledge that we have already, and that should act as a preparation so that we should be able to bring this new Torah, so we should be able to come hear the new Torah that's going to come out. It says in the Pasuk that a new Torah is going to come out when Mashiach comes, meaning a whole new depth of Torah. Pnimiyas HaTorah, the inner element of the Torah, would be David Malka Mashiach, coming from King David, Melech HaMashiach, which is a lashon for Mashiach. Doesn't mean that Mashiach is King David himself, but he's a descendant of King David. Therefore, sometimes we refer to Mashiach himself as David Malka Mashiach. He's going to teach the whole world. As it is known as Mashiach is a Melech, that Mashiach is a king. In Arav, he's also a teacher. In his Mashpia, and his Mashpia Tzedakah, Kinyan Shel Melech, he takes care of all the people, all the needs of the people. He gives in a manner of honor. And that he takes care of everybody in a way that's limitless. And here's these words, these very powerful words. in der Minoi von David Malka Mashiach is doch schon gewesen. The appointment of David Malka Mashiach, that means in this talks that the Rebbe mentions many times, the Rebbe always brings what it says in Abar Benel, that Moshiach Tzidkenu is not someone that comes flying down from the sky out of nowhere. Moshiach Tzidkenu, he says that in every generation there has to be someone who is worthy to be the Redeemer of the Jewish people. He's a tzaddik in the generation that has to be worthy, and Bevaya Azman, when the time comes, Hashem will reveal himself to him. And the Chassam Sofer brings this, and so on, that in every generation is Noilat Echad Mizera Yehuda, who's right to be Mashiach. In other words, but he has to be, and when the Chassam Sofer says at the time that it comes, Hashem will imbue in him special neshama. I think that's from the Arizal. But the Chassam Sofer, part of it says in the Bartanura, and part of it says in Chassam Sofer, and right now my mind is blurry for a moment. But the general thrust is that at a certain point, Moshiach himself is notified that he is the Goel, and it's time to redeem the Jewish people. So the Rebbe says over here that the appointment of Melech HaMashiach happened already. And these are the first time we heard such words. The Rebbe is telling us that Mashiach is about to come and so on and so forth. And we have the Achrazah of the Geula, and Melech HaMashiach is giving the announcement, and it's coming from Golus. But here he's saying the appointment of Melech HaMashiach happened already. As it says, Matzasi David Avdi B'Shem and Kachi Meshachtiv, referring to a kapitel that is kapitel 89, which Peites and Tehillim, which at that year, when the Rebbe was saying this, it was his kapitel. It is known there is a minhag from the Baal Shem Tov that we should say every year the kapitel Tehillim that is associated with our birthday, which means the next year, the coming year. So if I'm, let's say someone is 40 years old, so he should be saying the whole year 41, and so on and so forth. So, and then if you're 42, you say 43. So the Baal Shem Tov, so the Chassidim have the minhag not only to say their own kapitel, but to also say the Rebbe's kapitel. That year, the Rebbe was 88. And we'll see soon. On that year, Yud Aleph Nisan, he was going to become 89, entering into his 90th year. So, but in the year 88, everybody was saying kapitel 89. In kapitel 89, it says, Matzasi David Avdi, I found King David my servant, which referring to Moshiach. B'Shem and Kachi Meshachtiv, I've anointed him with, it's referring to David HaMelech and referring to his descendant Mashiach, I have anointed him with anointing oil. So the Rebbe says this has happened already. As Darf Nor Zayin. So what is lacking? Kabbalah's Malchusai, the people have to accept him. In other words, Mitzad Hashem, he has already been appointed. Mitzad the people, he's a Melech. The people need to, which is going to be a whole class on its own, which we're going to learn about later, is that we find by David HaMelech that even though Shmuel HaNavi anointed him with the oil, he was already a Melech, but he didn't officially get the power to become a king until the people gathered together and they anointed him as a Melech, as is described in Navi and Melachim. And the only thing that needs to be is Kabbalah's Malchusai De'am in the Iskashtrus zwischen dem Melech mit dem Am B'Shleimus. And the bonding of the king and the people, B'Shleimus Agilu, in its complete way. Begula mitzvah Shleima. So this was a big chiddush, by the way. Okay. But now we continue. I want to give you another two sources because it's very, very important. In other words, the idea. Well, why am I saying this? Why is this so important? I'm asking the question, could it be that we are now in a period where Melech HaMashiach came already? And you're going to wonder, what are you talking about? What do you mean Melech HaMashiach came already? I quoted to you a few times, and I'm going to say it again. The Sfas Emes, Daf Yud Aleph, Masechtes Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis. Sfas Emes says clearly that we have to recognize. First of all, I want everybody to know we have to get rid of all preconceived notions and emotional arguments, and all of that is totally irrelevant. Because what I'm trying to share with you is just, let's see what Torah says, what was said by Tzadikei Emes, and so on and so forth. Not what my emotion says based on a knish that I ate last night. Okay, that's where we make up stuff based on, I don't know, what we read in the newspaper, what this one said, what that one said, When we think this one is going to say, even though he didn't say it, all that, push it aside. It's all irrelevant. What we want to get down is to truth. What does Torah say? What does the Torah say? So, in Sfas Emes, it says as follows. And again, he's not saying this in a manner of drash. He's saying this as a pirush on the Gemara. He's saying that it's very clear that Bias ben David l'chud and Geula l'chud. And when we see when Mashiach comes, doesn't mean that there is Geula. Geula can come after Mashiach's coming. And he proves it. And he proves that the day that Ben David ba is the same like the day that Moshe Rabbeinu comes. Moshe Rabbeinu came to the Jewish people when the Jewish people were in Mitzrayim. There was no Geula yet. Moshe came. He told the Jewish people the Besura of the Geula is about to come. And he had to give them signs. He said they're not going to believe him. They did believe him. Then he went to Paro. And after he went to Paro, they chased him out of town. They yelled at him. Moshe had to run. He hid. He was away for 3 months. That's what the Sfas Emes brings. Then Moshe Rabbeinu went away for 3 months. Then he came back and he began the process of the Makkas. So the Sfas Emes says the same thing is very possible to happen by David HaMelech. By Mashiach. And he says, and so it says in the Midrash that so it will happen. That Moshiach will come, be revealed, be concealed, and be revealed again. So he says that Ben David, the Bias Ben David and Geula don't necessarily have to go together. Can it be that we are in that period after Ben David the Ba, but the Geula didn't come yet? Are you going to say that by Moshe Rabbeinu it was only 3 months? So first of all, the Midrash doesn't give us a time cap. By the way, the Midrash does say, actually that Midrash says 45 days. Rashi in Masechtas in Daniel brings the Midrash and changes it from 45 days to 45 years. I don't want to say Chas v'Shalom anything, but I'm saying there's no time. There's an Inyan of Nigla v'Chayza v'Nichsa. Revealed, concealed, and revealed again. We have to know, did Ben David the Ba, did that happen? And you can't compare it to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim was a 200-year exile. So everything in Egypt, in the process of Geula, is all, we might say, concentrated or micro. And this Geula is macro. So things that happen. And another thing to imagine is that Geula, being that the Jewish people didn't have Torah and mitzvahs yet, so it wasn't up to us, it was up to God. So everything went faster because it was Hashem's doing as Hashem does. In this Geula, as I said earlier, the Rebbe said it's up to us. And the whole avoda is up to us. And maybe if we would have gotten the work done quicker, we could have had Geula much quicker following the Bias Ben David. Like we see in the Rebbe Sichos, that the Rebbe was pushing so much that we should get the Geula happening after Bias Ben David. But not necessarily. And if it's already so many years after that year. Again, the Rebbe pointed to that year clearly as saying that that's the year that Ben David ba. That's the year, not just Shem, it's not just the year that Melech HaMashiach Nigla Boy, but it's the year that B'Shasha Melech HaMashiach ba, that it's the time that Melech HaMashiach comes. Now, so therefore I want to emphasize this stronger, and you see it even stronger in the talks. Again, as I'm saying, I'm not here to tell you anything of my own. I'm here just to share with you what went down during that time. Okay, so now in Shabbos Parshas Nasai, whoa, way later, a couple of months later. And the reason why this is so significant is this talk is the first one that's coming after that shake-up talk, Chavches Nisan, where the Rebbe says it's up to you guys. I've done everything I can. So over here we have, he brings the Shabbos Parshas Nasa, Yud Beis Sivan, page 595, Sefer HaSichos Tafshinun Aleph. So this is already 1991, in, I would say, probably late May. This is emphasized more in this year. It's the year of Tinasei Malchusai, that King's Mashiach's kingdom will rise. The Koi al David Ushloimer Shemelech HaMashiach Umizara, that Melech HaMashiach is from their descendants, and that his kingdom will rise b'chala ilam kula in the whole world. Ropshetz ti shnas arenu neflois. Okay, and it begins in the Ropshetz of the year. That year, the Rebbe pointed that the acronym of the year Tashin and Aleph stands for arenu neflois. I will show you wonders. Maschul ma neflois shekvaro. It's already beginning with the neflois that we saw already. Bepoyalu begiloi le'enei kol ha'amim, wonders that we've seen the whole world saw b'shana zu in this year. Shebehem niskaimu, it was already in this year. It was already fulfilled. Divrei Yalkut Shemoini Shana Shemelach HaMashiach Niglaboy, the year that the king that Mashiach reveals himself brings that, and and from then ubefrat b'chodesh Nisan chodesh hageula, and particularly in chodesh Nisan. Again, this is already from the last talk I shared with you to this talk. We passed chodesh Nisan, which I'm going to share with you in a moment, was pivotal in this whole occurrence, according to what it seems over here. So since we've already that we passed and chodesh Nisan, oim dem kvar, we are standing already at the time b'shasha melech HaMashiach ba, at the time when melech HaMashiach is coming, at the actual time of melech HaMashiach ba, and hine zeba, behold, hine zeba, this is him. Umashmiya lahem liYisroel v'omer anavim egias mangulas, and he notifies the Yidden egias mangulas. That's what he says over here. In the middle of Shemelech HaMashiach ba, he adds in parentheses, Hine zeba, behold, he is coming. So what is he referring to? So another Midrash the Rebbe was referring to during that year, and that is on the pasuk, Koil doidi hine zeba. It's a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Perek Beis. It says, the sound of my beloved, hine zeba. So the Midrash in Shir Hashirim says like this. I'm quoting you from the Midrash, Rabbi Yudan v'Reb Chanina. Look it up in Midrash Shir Hashirim, Perek Beis, Yutes, Sif Yutes. It says Rabbi Yuda v'Reb Chunya, Rabbi Yuda b'Shem Rebbe Lezer. Who is it referring to? Kol doidi zehine zeba. First, the Midrash says it's referring to Moshe Rabbeinu, but then the Midrash says, Reb Chunya ben Shem Rabban Yazv Oima Koil Doidi Nizeba Zeh Melech HaMashiach. It's referring to King Mashiach. B'shashu Oima LiYisroel b'chodesh hazeh atem nigalim. Hine zeba, referring to Mashiach. When he comes and tells the Jewish people, in this month you are being revealed. Oimerim Lai, the Jewish people say to him, Eich anu nigalim, how are we redeemed? What do you mean this month we're being redeemed? How's that happening? V'lo kvar nishba HaKadosh Baruch Hu shemesh abdeinu ba'ayin umais. Didn't Hashem already make an oath that he's going to first enslave us in the 70 nations? We haven't been enslaved to all the nations. The goal still has to go on for a long time. We Jews have to still be enslaved to every enslaved. In other words, you see how much Mashiach is begging the Jewish people? Be ready, let drop already your shackles, your internal enslavements, your external enslavement. Realize at the time of redemption, you did enough already. You suffered already. Stop being a victim. Stop being enslaved. And the Jewish people say, well, no. We still need more suffering. We haven't suffered enough. Didn't God say that we're going to suffer our way through all the 70 nations? And Mashiach answers two answers, the Midrash says. What's the two answers? Number one, Echad mehem goyla lebervavi of Echad mehem goyla lis Samataria doima kamosh galusa kilcha. Number one, it's amazing. You're right. We have to be everywhere. But you know what? Since one Jew goes to one corner of the world, and another Jew goes to another, and another Jew goes somewhere else, and you can go all over the world, different places, and one of them is in each country, it's enough. It's as if you were enslaved to all the nations. That's answer number one. Answer number two, he says, there is one nation that all nations kind of look up to. That's a very powerful nation. And everybody kind of connects to that nation. And therefore, when you're enslaved to that nation, it's as if you're enslaved to everybody. Two answers Moshiach gives. So you've done that already. And this month you're redeemed. So on this Midrash, where the Midrash says that Kol doidi hine zeba zemelech HaMashiach, this the Rebbe is quoting, making reference to the Midrash, because this idea that hine zeba zemelech HaMashiach is only in this Midrash. This is the Midrash he's referring to. He's not quoting the whole Midrash about the dialogue, which, if we have a chance, I will talk about that in a moment. But again, you see that the people don't accept the message. Not like, it doesn't go over as smoothly as Eliyahu Hanavi coming and knocking on the beam and telling Jews, hey, Mashiach is coming, and everybody buys into it, and everybody immediately is all excited. There's a back and forth, and there's a problem. It seems like there's a lot of hesitation. of hearing it and accepting it. Fine. But what the Rebbe is bringing in out of this Midrash is the idea of kol doidi zeh. Zeh means you're pointing with the finger. You can point your fingers when you're pointing to an actual individual and you're saying, Hine zeh ba, this is him. Like by the Yam Suf, the Yidden pointed, zeh keli v'anvei. And the Rebbe keeps on referring to this idea from mid-1990, 1991. It's already being fulfilled, the Hine zeh ba, that the Jewish people, that you can point with the finger, Hine zeh, this is him. So we're talking about already not just that Moshiach himself is revealing himself, but that he is being identified by the Jewish people and they're pointing their finger to him. Let me give you a stronger, and I'm going to get to that. Why is he saying that dafka at this time? Parsha Shabbos, Parshas Balak. It's even stronger said than ever before. Again, v'chidush noisav b'dereinu zeh gufa. This is a few weeks later, Parshas Balak. We're dealing with, this is the 17th day of Tammuz. Shavasa b'Tammuz came out on a Shabbos. So we wouldn't fast. It was an incredible talk that Shabbos. They were saying that today's days, it's almost like there's no gullus anymore, just Geula. We have to start transforming the fast days, having a whole different attitude to them. Not going to get into that right now. In any case, we'll talk about it in the next year. We find ourselves very close to the Geula. And we're already in the year Aishana Zu Shnas Naflos Arena. We've seen already miracles. Hashana Shabo Yekuyam Ayid Kemeitzeis Chemeres Mitzrayim and Naflos. And the year that it will be fulfilled, that Hashem will show us wonders. V'kvar Ra'u B'Poyol Neflois, and we saw already wonders that already testify that this is the year Shemelech HaMashiach Niglaboy, that the King reveals himself, the King Mashiach reveals himself. V'ad L'shasha Melech HaMashiach ba, the second Midrash, to the time that Melech HaMashiach ba, and he's mashmiya lahem Yisroel, another Megillas Mangolaschem, that too has already been seen that happened. Ukedivrei Yalkut Shemoni, va'ad lahachraza, now he makes reference to the third Midrash. Shehine zeh HaMelech HaMashiach ba, there has been an announcement already, that zeh Melech HaMashiach ba. And here's these words, it's actually highlighted in the Sikha, that you should embolden. And I think when it was printed, it was when the Rebbe gave it out to print, it was bolden. Shekvar ba, that he came already. You hear these new words here. Shekvar ba, that he has already come. Hainu sha'oimdim kvar al saf hascholas yemoisa Mashiach. We're already standing on the beginning, at the threshold of the days of the beginning of Yemoisa Mashiach, al saf hascholas ha'geula, at the beginning of the redemption, the takeoff from yadam shum chasa b'shleimusa, but it needs to still materialize and let it happen immediately, that we should be mamshechit in its shleimus. Those are the words over here. Everybody follow the progression? This is working through the year as it's progressing. What is the Rebbe emphasizing? That we're already pointing with the finger. So as I mentioned, in between the earlier sichas and this sicha comes the month of Nisan. Now, in the Midrash it says that when Mashiach comes to the Jewish people, he's telling them that in this month you're being redeemed. Why? Everybody knows. Nisan, which month is he referring to? Nisan is the month of redemption. The most appropriate month for redemption is Nisan. We always know it was our first redemption, it's going to be our future redemption. So, in that year, Chodesh Nisan, the Rebbe makes many references to that Chodesh Nisan, and he even said, once Nisan passed, that in the month of Nisan, kvar kolu kol hakitzin kipshutei mamish. One thing the Lubavitch Rebbe stayed always away from is kitzim. The Rebbe never pointed to dates. That whole idea of paying this date or that date. And even though the Rebbe always pointed out to a date that is currently ahead of us or coming, that it's especially a day that we're mamish coming to, that it's very mesugel to get time for Geula, always never the future, always like this day, tomorrow, this Yom Tov, it's always very mesugel. But he definitely didn't point out the past dates. It's the only time that the Rebbe keeps on referring back, in more than one place, the Chodesh Nisan that passed, that was like a turning point in Geula. That was... he uses the word kfar kolu kol hakutzin kipshutay mamish. We finished every besoif Chodesh Nisan. When Chodesh Nisan passed, we completed every case possible for the Geula. What happened in Chodesh Nisan and what was very unique during that Chodesh? So let me point out to you another interesting. I know I'm going a little bit time, but it's a fascinating thing, and I don't want to stop in the middle because this would be stopping in the middle of a major surgery over here. Shabbos Parshas Achrei Mois Kedoshim. This is Yud Gimel Iyar, 13th day of Iyar. This is already half a month after Nisan. And Ha'ara 126, the Rebbe brings, hear this, V'oid V'ikar, this is the end of the Sikha. Shol Nizgala V'er Nesaken V'er Al Yonim V'zvayzen Zichois. Okay, we should already be Mesaken everything. The Gilui HaKates, and we should already have the Gilui of Kates, V'sliba L'pima L'galia, which it's never revealed. And Moshiach Tzedkenu, V'lechukumt Behesach Hadas, which is going to come unexpectedly. Shenema Matzasi David Avdi, I found him. And where does it say Matzasi David Avdi? B'mizmar Pei Tes B'Tehillim, in the 89th Mizmar in Tehillim, it says Matzasi, like I mentioned earlier, it says Matzasi David Avdi. But when is it revealed? In Das Vertnis Gala and the Mizmar Tzadik. It's revealed in the Mizmar of 90. Which is the Mizmar 90 in Tehillim, is Yoshe B'Seser Elyon, which ends with V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu U'maisei Yodeinu Koinen Aleinu. No, Mizmar 90 is Tefillah LaMoshe is 90. But it ends with V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu. And that's when it's revealed the Matzasi David Avdi from the last kapitel. In other words, the Matzasi David Avdi, the one that's being revealed, it's in 90 that reveals what happened in the year 89. Shnasat Tzadik. 126, or 126. Uleheyer, the Rebbe says. Why Shnasat Tzadik so important? The 90th year. What's the significance of Kapitel 90 in Tehillim corresponding to the 90th year? So he brings a Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer. Let me quote to you the Midrash Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer. The Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer, again, is a Midrash from Rebbe Eliezer, the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva. There's a book with his teachings. And this is in the 48th chapter, Perik Memches, in Pirkei de Rebbe Eliezer. It says over there as follows. Rebbe Eliezer himself says, Chamesh oisiyei shekaflu b'Torah, there are 5 letters that are double in the Torah. And with these letters, they're all ba'oisiyas Kulam Yisaid Hagula. They're all the foundation of redemption. The Chaf, and these are the 5 double letters called Menatzpach. Mem Nun Tzadik Pei Chaf. In the order of the letters, it's Chaf first, but for some reason it's referred to as Menatzpach. All the letters that you have doubles. You have double, you put it by the end, you have a... Chaf is the Geula of Avram Avinu, Lech Lecha. That's when Avram Avinu was redeemed. The Mem is Yitzchak's redemption from the Pelishtim. It says, Ki atzam tami menu. There's a bunch of mems over there. Atzam tami menu ma'od. Nun, Yaakov Avinu was redeemed through the letter Nun. Hatzileni na, please save me. Nun, Nun. Pei, the Geula of Mitzrayim came through the letter Pei. By Nigal Avaiseinu in Mitzrayim, why we all know, Pakoid Pakadati. So the power of the Geula that was in Moshe Rabbeinu was the letter Pei. And what's the future redemption? Tzadik. Boy Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ligolas Yisroel. The Eibishter is going to redeem the Jewish people through the letter Tzadik. As it says, the Pasuk says, Tzemach Tzamachti. We daven always as Tzemach David Avdecha. Tzemach Tzamachti, I have made my plant grow. Shanemar Inish. Tzemach Shemoy Mitachtav Yitzmach. Tzemach Shemoy, and from below he will sprout forth. Azal Lashon. Ubana Seichel Hashem, and he will build up the Heichel of the Eibishter. So the Rebbe brings this over here. Again, the Rebbe himself writes this. He says, Leheyer, Sheba'ois Pei, Boy Nigalu Avasenu in Mitzrayim. With the letter Pei, the Yidden were redeemed from Mitzrayim, like it says, Pakot Pakadati Eschem. And then the Rebbe puts a footnote in the footnote. He puts a brackets. Leheyer, you should just note that Moshe was 80 years old when he came to redeem. Since the power of the Redeemer came through the letter Pei, so Moshe Rabbeinu was 80 years old when he came to redeem the Jewish people. Tzadik. Boy, Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ligolas Yisroel. So Tzadik, the Eibishter is going to redeem the Jewish people and say, tell them, Tzemach Tzamachti, Ish Tzemach Shemoy, his name is Tzemach, Umitachtav Yitzmach, and so on and so forth. He brings it from Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer. And in the Midrash Midbar Rabbah, and he brings the Pasuk, in the Midbar Rabbah he says he brings another Pasuk, V'aki Moisi LeDavid, Tzemach Tzadik, fine. That's what he says. So what happened? What is the Rebbe referring to? It's very clear. That year, the Rebbe, and Yud Aleph Nisan is the Rebbe's birthday. So on that Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe went into his 90th year, Shnasat Tzadik. And for those of you familiar with what was going on then, I don't have to tell you. But for those who don't, I will tell you as follows. The Rebbe did not stop talking throughout the year about Shnas HaTzadik, how we entered into Shnas HaTzadik. And this is the most powerful year for redemption, because we entered in Shnas HaTzadik. It's this idea. It's based on this Midrash. So when Yud Aleph Nisan, the Rebbe became 89, going into 90, so he entered into Shnas HaTzadik, and therefore he's pointing that is related to the Geula. Now, what happened that Nisan? After the Rebbe gave that powerful, powerful talk on the 28th of Nisan, the Rebbe, the whole Nisan was like driving Geula. And when it came to 28th of Nisan, the Rebbe said, I don't get it, guys. I don't feel like I have a team over here. I'm alone. I'm running ahead. You guys went to sleep. I'm trying the best I can. I'm doing everything I can, but you're asleep. Let's storm the heavens. Where is your Ad Masai? It's not coming from any true place. It's coming only because I'm telling you to do so. It's not coming from a real place. You guys tolerate the exile. I don't tolerate it. I need, right? And then the Rebbe said, listen there, I've done what I can. I give it over to you. Right after that, Chabad was shooken up to the core. In Eretz Yisroel, there was a group of people, led by a fellow by the name of David Nachshon, who people did different things. There were meetings all over. What are we going to do? And he went to the Rabbanim in Eretz Yisrael and said, listen here. It seems like the Rebbe, from different things, as I told you, the Rebbe said, and you should know, it's no secret that Chabad, it's not like something that started then. It started already from the first mimer of the Rebbe, from the very beginning. There was like undertone talking that Lubavitchers believed the Rebbe is Moshiach. And again, there were different indications to that throughout the year, and it only got stronger, but it kept on being hushed. Yeah, no, hushed. Boop. And obviously you understand, a lot of people started accusing Chabad as being a cult and a messianic cult, and people boom, 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 and all kinds of accusations. So it was kind of like, the unspoken word in Lubavitch, at least not on the outside, but quietly by Fabrengen's people, some more, some less, that was going on. It's not going to hide from that. Everybody knows that was going on. This David Nachshon took it as this sikha, as a cue from the Rebbe, saying, hey, the Rebbe said that the only thing that's necessary now is the iskashrus of the people to the Melech. So we have to recognize who he is. So he went and he got the Rabbanim together in Eretz Yisrael, and they signed a psak din that based on the Rambam's qualifications of what Mashiach needs to be, someone who influences the Jewish people to keep Torah and mitzvahs, and is a person who's studies Torah, and he strengthens and he fights the wars of God, which can mean, as the Ramosha Feinstein says, not physical wars with an armor, but he fights for Judaism and so on and so forth. So based on all this criteria, they sat down in Eretz Yisrael, a few Rabbanim, and they signed a psak din. It was a whole dramatic story, how they got more Rabbanim and more Rabbanim. And he flew to America, Rabbi David Nachshon. It's a whole write-up. It's the most dramatic story. He came to America, and he came there. It was already after Chodesh Nisan. It was Beis Iyar. It was the day of the Rebbe's grandfather's birthday, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, known as the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe was on his way to the mikveh, and they handed to the Rebbe, there was a very daring move, very bold, that you're handing a psak din of Rabbanim. The Rebbe was asking that year that the Rabbanim should sign Piskei Dinim, that Mashiach has to come. The Rebbe was looking for Rabbanim to, that Al Pi Torah Mashiach has to come. The Rebbe was asking, the Rebbe always wanted that Rabbanim should sign a psak din Al Pi Torah. But the Rebbe never asked or said that they should paskin that about him, that he's Mashiach. So they, at this point, said, hey, this is... So they went and they made a psak din. And then when the Rebbe was on the way to the mikveh, the whole story, they handed it to the Rebbe. The Rebbe gave a big, smile to it, and so he went into the mikveh, came back. Then the Gabbai added, there was one more rabbi who they managed to get later, and he faxed in a psak. I think they had altogether 5 rabbanim on the initial psak. And when the secretary gave it to the Rebbe said, is this related to what was before? And then the Rebbe gave a big smile and a big yasher koyach. He put it in his envelope. And this slowly started becoming the source for a undercurrent moving that was happening in Chabad during that time, that it's time for people to sign a document that they feel the Rebbe is Moshiach and that we're makabel upon ourselves his kingship, because that's the whole idea of Kabbalah Samalchus. It's a king. We're not used to it in the Jewish people, that the king, the follower of the people have to. So it started, and they started signing signatures and so on and so forth. But obviously it was becoming a very political thing. Those in charge of the PR in Lubavitch really didn't like it. People felt that this would cause a lot of problems for Chabad, so they were trying to hush it and back and forth, and it was tension, was like crazy. Problem that was everybody knew is that the Rebbe kind of not openly, but in many ways openly also was encouraging it. But yeah and no. So it was like everybody was very scared to do anything because you realize you're dealing with something so sensitive and it's very frightening. So you want to do it. Any case, Shabbos Parshas Tazria Mitzayra that year, at the end of the Farbrengen, Rabbi David Nachshon, when the Rebbe used to call up by the Farbrengen Chassidim to stand up, anybody that made a special event, they were called up and they would make an announcement. And their announcement that they made was about an event that they're making. If they did a Malava Malka, or they're doing some organization, and they would say L'chaim, the Rebbe would give them a bottle of mashke. So by Parshas Tazria Mitzayra, this is again, Zay Vav Ir, it's that week, again, I think it was Monday that he handed the Rebbe on the way to the mikveh, this psak din, and that Shabbos, the Rebbe said as follows by the Farbrengen. Pashtus, Shebiyoim HaShabbos Kodesh Parshas Isha Ki Tazria, a woman gives birth. It's referring to the Orach Chaim HaKadosh says that the woman giving birth is referring to the neshama of Moshiach Tzedkenu. The Zois Tia Teiras HaMitzoram. Mitzoram is also referring to Mashiach, because Mashiach is called a Mitzora, because he's inflicted. So let it be that on this Shabbos, Tia Leidis v'his Galos Mashiach Tzedkenu. Let it be the birth and the revelation of Mashiach Tzedkenu. Chivr devei Rebbe, the leper from the house of Rebbe. Kefi shu b'yom ta'arasai. Let's see, like he is in the day of purification. Shezoichem l'shmoya ha'achraza. We're zoichet to hear the announcement. And where do we hear this announcement? B'chol ha'olam, in the whole world, u'b'chol seder ishtalshalus, and in the entire cosmic order. There's a cosmic evolution from world to world, a common theme in Chassidic literature that speaks about the sum totality of all of existence, including all worlds, all spiritual worlds, everything. So we should hear this announcement in everywhere, that what? Shehine zeh, that you point with a finger, v'oimer zeh melech HaMashiach ba, this is melech HaMashiach that's coming, v'hine zeh kvoit kedushas Morichami Admor Nasidareinu ba, and take a look here, my father-in-law, the Friediger Rebbe ba, he's coming, since Akitzu Verano Sheikh Ne'afar, they've already been reawakened. The Rebbe always referred to himself connecting to his father-in-law. V'tzadikim kamem l'tchiyam ayad, and tzadikim will get up immediately. V'chol Rabbi Seinu Nesienu, and all of our teachers, all of our Rebbes. V'chol tzadikei, and all the tzadikim, and Nesi Yisroel, and all the leaders of the Jewish people. U'Moshe v'Aaron imon, and Moshe with them. This announcement should be heard everywhere. Which announcement? That there is the Hizgalos, the revelation of Melech HaMashiach, that we point with a finger and say, Hinei Zeba. This I'll be pashtus. What announcement was referred to? This Rabbi David Nachshon, who stood up, he was terrified. He was so scared. He had no idea what was going to happen. He was scared he might get a look that will burn him, like it says by Shimon Bar Yochai. He looked at him and turned him into a gal. He didn't know what to expect. Not let alone what to accept from people that might literally stone him if he's doing something like wacky, and especially not knowing how the Rebbe is going to react. The Rebbe that kind of whispered that he should come up. And he stood up and very loudly made a very powerful announcement. This is the first time it was announced in front of the Rebbe, the phrase of Yechi Adonenu Mereinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Le'olam V'od. Long live our Rebbe, our king, our teacher, forever and ever, Melech HaMashiach. And they say the Rebbe gave a very big smile, and then the Rebbe handed him mashka, and this is referring to what happened. Again, I'm giving you information on what took place that year. So that happened, again, so it's all in connection to what we're talking about. And in Chodesh Nisan, something changed. And by the way, after that, there were signatures that were coming in every day. Thousands were signing. And the Rebbe kept on giving Zetlach answers, Chuaschein, thank you so much. This is bringing a lot of nachas. Thank you, you should add, and so on and so forth. And then after that, there were talks where the Rebbe was saying that I'm getting a lot of complaints about talking about Mashiach recently from within Chabad. The Rebbe said by the Farbrengen, people are afraid to let go of the Golos. You should know that Mashiach is not going to take anything away from you from your exile. It's only going to enhance. It's a lot of talks. There's so much to talk over here. I'm just giving you a brief thing of what went on during that time. So when we asked the question, Shana Shem Melech HaMashiach Ba, was there in his Galos of Melech HaMashiach that year, according to Lubavitcher Rebbe, yes. And it's even interesting, in Tafshin Nun Beis, the following year, when the year was completely over, the Rebbe keeps on referring to that year that it happened. So it's not a question like he was still hoping that was going to, it happened already. Whatever then his galus needed to be, that happened already. It's clear from the Sichos. I'm going to conclude, and I know I'm already it's been a long class, but I am going to conclude that the progression that was going on over that period of time, as I told you, in the beginning, the Rebbe starts saying we're living in the time, in Parshas Re'eh, we're living in the time, but he only speaks about the first half of the Midrash, and the second half of the Midrash, he says, hopefully it will be fulfilled. Later, he starts identifying that the second part of the Midrash has also been fulfilled. That itself starts becoming stronger and stronger as the year goes out, and becoming more identifying, giving us more signs where it's coming from Chutz Li'aretz, so on and so forth. In that other talk, he says it's coming from Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, which, by the way, in that talk, he actually says very strongly what's the name of that shul. And he explains how it's the number of that shul and the address of the shul and why it's called that way and so on and so forth, and what's the significance of the number 770. He gives the significance of it, how represents the completion of the purification of the world, because number 7 is the world, our 70 nations, our 77 time and space is all in 7. What good is it going to be if this information is not shared with everybody? What good is it going to be if the exile continues another chas v'shalom, years and years and years, because we're afraid to look at what was said? I'm not saying what anybody needs to accept. I just want to share with you what was said by someone who everybody, I think, most of the Jewish world agrees today has been a tzaddik, a navi, levels of I mean, not every, I wouldn't say most of the Jewish people agree he's a navi, because people didn't necessarily follow, but anybody that does follow and knows, and I spoke about in earlier classes, the Rebbe himself spoke about himself and Pasha Shoftim Tafshin Nun Aleph, that whatever he's saying, that from the Baal Shem Tov on, Nevuah returned to the Jewish people, and that he's speaking as a Navi, and that he's telling us the Gula is happening as a Navi. I mean, these are things you don't play around with. This is very, very serious stuff. And the Jewish people need to know this. And we need to approach it again from a Torah perspective, not from emotions, but from a Torah, true perspective, what was going on. So I do want to say that as the years progressed, not the years, the months progressed, later the Rebbe kept on emphasizing more that this Besuras Hagiyula is coming from Mashiach, and he's pointing to who this Mashiach is, not to himself, but to his father-in-law. Parshas Vayera, again, this is Tafshin Nun Beis. In Parshas Vayera, the Rebbe says, very strong over here, page 95, that there is the existence of Mashiach, in addition to the idea that every Jew has a little spark of Mashiach inside of him. We have already the Metzias of Mashiach Kipshutai, in the literal sense, like it is known that in every generation there's someone born that is ready to be the Mashiach of the Jewish people, one that is royi from to his tzidkus, to redeem the Jewish people, and the time will come, Hashem will reveal himself to him and will send him. And the Rebbe says, and if things would not have mixed in other things, he would have already been revealed. That's what the Rebbe says. If other things are not mixing in, he would have already been revealed. And based on the notification of, listen to these words, my father-in-law, Nasi Dareinu, the Nasi of our generation, Moshiach Shebedareinu, the Moshiach of our generation. See, that's already a very strong statement. The Rebbe himself is saying, my father-in-law, who's the Nasi of the generation and the Moshiach of the generation, that we finished already everything, and we're standing already, Muchanim like a Belz and Mashiach, Harebi Ameinu Elu, there's already all the meniyos and all the obstacles that were blocking till now have already been removed. There's no more obstacles. V'kivan Shekain, not only do we have the Metzias of Mashiach, but we even have his galus of Mashiach. So the Rebbe is saying that Mashiach has already been revealed. Ha'ara, and even stronger, there was a talk that the Rebbe gave to all the shluchim, talking about 3-4 months before his stroke, Parshas Chayesara. And the Rebbe then told the shluchim very clearly, look it up in Parshas Chayesara Nun Beis. Over there the Rebbe is talking very strongly, and he's saying it's the avoid of all the shluchim to know that the shlichus has now been upgraded. It's not enough just to go put tefillin on Jews and to do mitzvahs with Jews. Everything that you're doing has to be with the kavanah of bringing Mashiach. But more than that, you have a responsibility to go to your communities around the world, teach them about Moshiach, teach them all the information in Yoni Shel Mashiach, based on Torah Shebiksav, Torah Shebal Peh, everything that it says in Midrashim, and teach them based primarily on Chassidus and primarily on the Sichos, the Rebbe says, of Nasid Areinu, of our generation, and teach them all of this so that they will be ready L'Kabel Pnei Moshiach Tzidkenu. That's our avodah. I don't have time to read it to you inside. And this was going on in the winter of Tafshin Nun Beis. As we got close to the end of the winter, Shvat and Adar, and again we're talking about right before the stroke, the Rebbe went even a step further. Till now, the Rebbe kept on referring to Mashiach, my father-in-law, which obviously everybody always knows that when he's talking about his father, he's talking about himself, because the two of them are intertwined. And I'm not going to go into the Kabbalistic idea of it, of Yesod and Malchus, how the two of them are inseparable. It's not a discussion for now. But the Rebbe keeps making reference in two places explicitly, Parshas Mishpatim, Nun Beis, and Parshas Tetzaveh Nun Beis. It's very, very clear where the Rebbe is mentioning the name Menachem. The Rebbe would always mention Menachem Shemoy, that Mashiach's name is Menachem. But he would always like kind of slide it in and connect it to the third Chabad Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek. The Rebbe would say that the Tzemach Tzedek, whose name is Menachem Mendel, but the gematria of the name Menachem Mendel is Tzemach Tzedek. That's why they actually named his sefer Tzemach Tzedek, because it's the gematria of Menachem Mendel. And the Rebbe kept on always saying that that's Shemoy Shel Mashiach. That's the name of Mashiach, Menachem Shemoy. So usually it was in reference to him. In those 2 weeks right before, the Rebbe made clear reference, Menachem Shemoy, regarding to himself. He said that Mashiach should let it be already fulfilled, that Mashiach should come miyad, miyad meaning now, mamish, now. And he says the Rosh Tevis of the word miyad stands for Moshe, Yisroel, and David. Moshe is Moshe Rabbeinu, Yisroel is Yisroel Baal Shem Tov, and David HaMelech. And the Rebbe explains how these three people are pivotal in the Geula of the Jewish people. But then the Rebbe says, Laheir, again, that the Miyad has another Rosh Tevis regarding the last three generations that are, I'm going to read it to you inside, I'm going to finish it right after this because I don't have time to do any more with you. But I do want to share with you one last one here. Befrati is Yosef ben Agela Dereinu Zep, page 376, Sefer Asichas Tafshin on Beis, Ara 148. Shabarasha Tevis the Miyad Nirmazim Gimel at Kufis Hashaychem Lekved Kedushas Maricham Admor. Three Kufis that are connected to my father-in-law, Nasid Areinu. The three periods. Al Seder Akirva Aleinu, and the way it's closer to us. Remember, the Rebbe allowed this to be printed and edited and published. And what is the Kirva to us? The Mem of Miyad stands for Mashiach. And the Rebbe makes parentheses, and he puts in Menachem Shemoy, whose name is Menachem. And that's the Mem. It's Mem for Mashiach and Mem for Menachem. The Yud of the word Miyad stands for Yosef Yitzchak, his father-in-law, Friediger Rebbe. And the Dalet of the word Miyad stands for Doiv Ber, Miyad. Menachem, Yosef Yitzchak, Doiv Ber. So obviously he's not referring to a Tzemach Tzedek. When he's saying Menachem, Mashiach's name, and Miyad, that's the name of Mashiach, the Rebbe is making a reference to himself. There's another one, more than one. I'm not talking about the private revelations that happened in private, and so on and so forth. I'm not talking about the Rebbe sitting on the porch for an entire year, more than a year after his stroke, and encouraging when the people were singing to him, Yechia Adonenu. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about public talks that were given over. I am not drawing any conclusions over here. I know there is a very big question from Gimel Tammuz and what happened, which one might argue, okay, it was nice, it was whatever. I'm not trying to answer anybody's questions over here. What I am going to say is that I'm going to read to you one more and last Midrash. The Midrash in Shir Hashirim, continuing to the Bias HaMashiach. The Midrash says, the next pasuk says, Doime doidi litzvi, my beloved is compared to a deer. The Midrash says, Matzvi, just like the deer, Nira, he appears, V'chayzev v'nichse, he becomes concealed again. Nira v'chayzev v'nichse, he appears and he becomes hidden again. Kach goel rishon, so is the first Redeemer. He appears and he gets hidden and he becomes revealed again. And how long was he hidden? Reb Tanchuma says 3 months, fine, like it says by Moshe and Aaron. And Kach goel achron, the later Goel niglu lahem v'choyze v'nichse. He will reveal himself, he will be hidden. It's very interesting that in Lakutei Sichos, Chelik Tes, Parshas Re'eh, is in the early Sichos. There is a footnote on the last page of the first Sicha, Parshas Re'eh, where the Rebbe questions if the concept of Choyzer v'nigla v'nichse, v'nigla can fit with the Rambam. The Rambam's progression of Mashiach. Can there be in this, from simply when you're learning the Rambam, it seems like Mashiach's revelation and his work that he does, he's suddenly someone, the Jewish people notice that we have a leader and we have a king, and he influenced the Jewish people for Torah and mitzvahs and so on and so forth, and he's strengthening the Jewish people and all this. And it seems like from the Rambam that he like makes it to the final finish line without any interruptions. The Rebbe asks over there, can it be that there is a revelation and then hiding? So the Rebbe says, from this that the Rambam brings Bar Kochva, that Rebbe Akiva thought Bar Kochva is Mashiach, and the Rambam proves halacha from that Mashiach doesn't have to do miracles and the like. And the Rebbe says that Bar Kochva, in the Zecha, where the Rebbe takes this, he knows this, I guess it says maybe in Josephus or whatever, that Bar Kochva hid in caves for a while. In other words, he was the leader of the Jewish people, the great general. Rebbe Akiva again wanted to proclaim him as king, but then he was hidden in caves for a while, and then he was seen again. So the Rebbe says, since the Rambam is using Bar Kochva, so you see that you can't negate this idea of Nigla v'Chayzer v'Nichsa. Obviously, I'm going to concede to the question that what does it mean hidden in between? Can it mean passing away? Can it mean a full-fledged passing? I can say as follows. One thing is very strange, that the Rambam clearly says that if Mashiach, that the one who is Becheskas Mashiach, the one that is assumed to be Mashiach, if he is killed, we know that it's not him. It's very interesting that the Rambam chooses the words, if he is killed. L'chora, because people can argue, see, once he died, he's out. But if you look carefully, the Rambam chooses the word killed, not died. Now, you can argue and say the reason why he chooses the word killed is because that's what happened by Bar Kochva. He was killed, and then we let go of him. But the problem is, if the Rambam is accurate, the Rambam wants to teach you halacha. If when he says killed, he includes also dying, so why doesn't he say mace? Mace includes everything. Rambam is very careful, he doesn't say mace. He says only killed. That means that we can't take away someone's apipashtis. We can't take away someone's cheskas Mashiach just because there was an inyan of Misa. On Nirtzach, yeah. And I can give you a simple difference. What's the difference between being killed? Killed means he was killed by his enemies, means that he was defeated. Mashiach it can't be defeated. If a passing doesn't say defeated. Okay, this is just the information I want to put out there. And again, I'm not telling anybody what to believe. And I just want people to know what happened and what says. And to me, this is very, very strong. Very, very strong. And that tells me that the way I see it is that we're living in an awesome, unbelievable time right now. And the responsibility for each and every one of us is enormous, enormous, enormous. But also there's a tremendous nasinas kayach, tremendous empowerment. I'm going to go back to give the warning. If you listen to this class just because you popped onto your YouTube, if you listen to this class just out of, you're inspired by Geula and you heard what I said today and you're saying, wow, this is extreme stuff, I want you to know that I asked and I'm asking again to please do yourself, be honest to yourself and do yourself a favor. Don't, if you listen to it already, listen to my previous classes beginning with Moshiach Decoded. Try to listen to all of them. If you can't listen to all of them, at least listen to all of them from Mashiach, the process, part 1. They're all on YouTube, so that what I'm saying now doesn't sound to you like totally strange. You have the backdrop and you have the information that's necessary so that you can hear these words at least seriously, and then you'll see how you process it and what this leads you to. Everyone should be well and great, and the main thing is we should have already Moshiach Tzidkenu fully revealed for the whole world to see, and we should dance with everlasting joy.